Salvete discipuli. In this video we're going to learn how to recognize the passive voice in Latin. And the key, as always with Latin, is inflections. Perhaps you remember the active voice endings from Latin 1. O, M, S, T, M, U, S, T, I, S, N, T, present tense. Present tense. Forever will remember present tense. We learned these endings in Latin 1 when we first started to learn about Latin verbs. And we learned that these endings tell us what the subject of the verb is, I, you, he, we, you, or they, and also that when a verb has only those endings, it is in the present tense. Now we are going to learn that these endings also represent the active voice. And that means that the subject, I, you, he, we, you, or they, is performing the action of the verb. Amo, I love. Amas, you love. Amat, he loves. Amamus, we love. Amatis, you love. And amant, they love. If we see O or M, S, T, M, U, S, T, I, S, or N, T on a verb in a sentence, we know that the verb is active and the sentence is in the active voice, which means that the subject will be performing the action. This year we're learning about passive voice endings. Are, wrist, term, mini, enter, present passive endings. Are, wrist, term, mini, enter. Learn them right away. If you don't, you will be sorry. So rise up early in the morn, singing are, wrist, term, mini, enter. I've learned my passive endings. These endings look completely different than anything that we learned in first year Latin, and that's because they are brand new endings to represent the same subjects, I, you, he, we, you, and they, but this time those subjects are not performing the action. The action is being done to the subject, which means that the sentence is in the passive voice. So when we see the letter R on the end of a verb like amor, I am the subject, but I am not loving. I am being loved. I am loved. Ris makes you the subject, and in that sentence, you are loved. Ter, amater, makes he the subject, and he is loved. Amamer makes we the subject, and we are loved. You'll notice that in all of these, the subject is not doing the loving, but someone else is loving the subject. We don't know who. Amamini means that all of you are loved, and amantor means that they are loved. The most simple thing that we need to understand here as we compare both the active and passive voice endings is that each of these sets of endings represents a common subject. O, M, and R all represent the subject I, S and ris, you, T and ter, he, she, or it, mus and mer, we, tis and mini, you, plural, and nt and enter represent the subject they. But that's where their commonalities end. And what's different about them begins to appear. Obviously, they look completely different. And they should, because what's going on in the sentence is something completely different with each ending. When you see an active voice ending representing the subject I or you or he, that subject is doing whatever the action is. When you see R, ris, ter, mer, mini, or enter, that subject is having the action done to it. So I am loved, or we are loved. Let's take a look at some sentences just to see if we can tell whether or not the sentence is in the active voice or the passive voice based solely on the ending of the verb. Regina arrega amatur. So here we see the ending ter on the verb, and that means that the sentence is in the passive voice. To translate it, we're going to look for a nominative case noun, which is Regina. That is my subject, and the action is done to it. Regina arrega amatur. The queen is loved by the king. In the second sentence, the T on the end of the verb amat is from the active voice, and so the nominative case noun here, which is rex, is performing the action. Rex amat reginam. The king loves the queen. In this third sentence, pueri magnam arborem in agro ascendunt, the ending on the verb is nt. Nt is from the active voice, and so this sentence is in the active voice. We're looking for a nominative case noun, which is pueri, to be the subject, and they are going to perform the action. The boys are climbing a large tree in the field. In our next sentence, as we read through, a pueris magna arbor in agro ascenditur, we see that the verb ascenditur ends with tur, T-U-R, and that makes this sentence passive, making the subject of the sentence, magna arbor, which is in the nominative case, not doing the climbing, but the climbing being done to it. So the large tree, ascenditur, is climbed by the boys. Laudur a magistro quod librum celeriter legebam. In this sentence I have two verbs. The first one ends with R, and that makes I the subject and passive because R is from the passive voice endings. So I am not doing anything, but something is done to me. I am praised a magistro by the teacher because why? Legebam. There I, represented by am doing the action because I, legebam, was reading librum, the book, quickly. In the final sentence, we see laudat me magister quod librum celeriter legebam. It's the same sentence, but this time the very first verb, laudat, ends with a T instead of an R, and that means that T is from the active voice and the subject has changed from I to he. And who is the he? The nominative case noun in the sentence, which is magister, the teacher. What did the teacher do? And that will make it active voice. The teacher, laudat, praises me because why? Legebam. I'm still the subject here, so what was I doing? Because I was reading a book quickly. Now there are lots of other things that go into translating a passive voice sentence, but what we need to understand very simply is that when we see the ending on the verb, we are able to tell whether that verb and then the whole sentence is active or passive.